are watching is a disaster in the making. A major bridge that seemed sturdy and strong suddenly collapses into a flooding New York River, killing 10 people. But the question is, could it happen here on Houston's roads while you're driving over them?
Can I have a hug?
For Cecilia Buchanan, the last thing on her mind this morning is that she might die on the collapsing bridge.
And you always think you're safe.
6:16.
But early each day, she drives over US 59 and a bridge in Fort Bend County that may be such a danger.
You leave your house and then your kids.
And so do 25,000 other Texans, passing over the bridge on 59 just north of University Boulevard at a waterway known as Bullhead Slough.
You don't think that it's going to collapse while you're driving.
But the 11 News defenders discovered that all those drivers have been running just such a risk for years, and the state's known all about it. How do we know? From looking at memos from TxDOT's own engineers to their bosses.
For example, this internal memo from the Texas Department of Transportation about the bridge says the bridge's columns are at their upper limits of slenderness.
They're just lucky that the failure has not occurred sooner.
Meet Phil Alterman, a forensic engineer with decades of experience investigating bridge collapses. When he arrived at the bridge, he quickly found what he called imminent danger.
These piles have shifted, and that's the weak point of the structure.
You see, a bridge's columns or legs normally are firmly anchored deep into the ground. But at US 59, so much of that ground around the columns has washed away, it's left them taller, thinner, weaker, and with less support. You can see for yourself how some of the bridge columns go straight up and down, but others are at an angle and leaning, making the bridge potentially unstable.
Well, there's no question that you could have a collapse, a catastrophic event.
And he's not the only expert to think so.
God forbid a bridge does collapse. Here it's
He's
below.
Sam Schwartz,
You can have knowledge of risk to the public
an award-winning engineer.
and not take real tough action to make sure it gets done.
And as the former deputy commissioner of the New York City Department of Transportation, Schwartz used to oversee more than 2,000 bridges.
I would be very concerned if visually I could see that this bridge had moved. I would never feel comfortable getting a memo saying we're at the upper limit of slenderness. I don't want to be at limits. I want to be well on the safe side.
We've discovered this risk to you and your family should come as no surprise to TxDOT. In this internal memo, a TxDOT engineer noticed those same columns show cracking on all sides and recommended immediately adding additional columns or supports to strengthen the bridge. That warning came in 1997. But today, 7 years later, TxDOT still hasn't followed through.
It's unconscionable. We hope and pray that there isn't a bridge failure in the next few months.
We took all of this back to the Texas Department of Transportation.
On such a heavily traveled bridge,
Right.
why would you disagree or take a chance and go against the maintenance division's recommendations to add support pilings immediately? Why go against that?
The thing here that is their opinion. That is one opinion.
He's TxDOT's Mo Mosafa, who oversees the area's 5,000 bridges. He told us we don't have any reason to worry.
We feel like we have a still pretty good factor of safety.
How would you feel if that bridge did go down and you had signed off on this report saying, we don't need those additional support bents?
That's a very hypothetical question. I had to voice that at the time. I had to make my decision based on my experience.
But for motorist Cecilia Buchanan,
It makes you wonder that how many other places are not safe, that it's not just one bridge.
and she may have reason to worry. That's because the defenders have discovered 95 other bridges of concern in our area. That's according to TxDOT's own records that labeled the majority of those bridges as potentially unstable. And the state hasn't gone back to update those in-depth safety studies for nearly a decade.
And the last time you've done a concise analysis is in 1994 or 1995 on critical bridges?
Correct, because the fact for calculating those information, none of those facts it would change.
But expert Schwartz disagrees.
And then we hope and pray that Texas DOT does the inspections as fast as they can.
Why not just err on the side of caution?
I would have, and I have, if I see the worst, if I see it that way.